Red alert!
Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm Tom King. This is the 4K Skywatching podcast here at a new time. A little bit of redesign here in the studio and a little bit redesign on the hair. We're here tonight or this afternoon, this evening with Tim Sr. We're going to do a breakdown a little bit of what's going on, speculating a little bit what's going on in El Paso, Texas, which is very strange. And then we're going to talk some about the UAP summit. And if there's time left over after that, we'll get into spending some more money on gear. So this is interesting. I was thinking about doing a Skywatch, this weekend, and I was thinking, no, what the hell are you doing? You don't do a Skywatch around Valentine's Day. That's the worst time of the year to do a Skywatch unless you want to do target practice with your equipment, because I've done it before, and typically I find from now until maybe about the first week of March, we're going to end up with these Valentine's Day balloons getting released in people's houses and sent around. The only good news is helium's more expensive. I very, very, very seldom see balloons anymore. The skies have really cleaned up in the last few years. It used to be a normal thing, and now it's almost kind of a rarity to see balloons in the sky because it's just somebody giving away $5 or whatever the hell they cost. So let's bring Tim in. Tim's backstage here. He's got his room all set up. Let's go.
Tommy K, thanks for having me on, bud. Happy Sunday. Skies are a little cloudy here today, so might as well hang out online and talk about UFOs if I can't search for them.
Oh, no doubt. This has been quite a busy week this past week. It's funny how things ramp up and go down and ramp up and go down. I've been just organizing things around here. I've been doing something I've been wanting to do for a while, which is slotting different computers for different parts of UFODAP. Over this last week, newer versions of UFODAP were released by Ron Olch. So if you buy the software, you get updates, anytime he puts them out. So he put out a new version of the optical tracking data acquisition unit software version 2.26. I helped beta test some of that. Unfortunately, with that particular software that's now out, does not work with one of my dome cameras. So what I'm doing is just using an older version of that. So one laptop has version 2.25 running, working really good. He also released a new mission control software. Mission control runs the Raspberry Pi stuff. So one of them has that dome camera dialed in. And then about an hour or two ago, one of these, the Black Alien, where it's called, has the 45 power camera dialed into that. And then this one here that you guys see is going to run another one. So the idea is to have all three of these different computers assigned to each dome, and then tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, they all turn on, and all three dome cameras will be watching the general area of the sky, looking for overlap. So I'm going to run that through all this week. That's kind of my plans going. What are you up to, Tim, with your stuff?
Yeah, new builds, new demos. I'm going to be out on location in Lincoln City for 2 days, taking my gear out and seeing if I can run any demos on it. I've yet to test a few things in the field. So one of them being what I showed last week, which is a laser tracking system and trigger system for my cameras. So what I gotta say was well done to you bringing this event to my attention, because it was really great confirmation to see that not only are you doing spot on work in science, but some of the cusp technology that we've been both talking about, doing and building on our own, is really the same ideas that we were seeing brought forward at this event as cutting edge technology. So whatever, these minds are that are working on gathering data out in the field, sounds like we're all kind of thinking in the same terms and the same levels. So I can't wait to dig in, because the citizen science has just been groundbreaking, and this symposium was just evidence of that.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger than all of us at this point. Skywatching doesn't. No one owns the name Skywatching, any of that. So you can't trademark it. And unfortunately, someone might, because we had that happen with the Phoenix Lights, where somebody went and trademarked the Phoenix Lights, and then threatened to sue anyone who used it in the documentary. But anyway, yeah, there's so many people that are doing this now, from the Tedesco brothers, and you guys predated them with your RV idea, and I've been doing this forever. And there's other Skywatchers out there, but it's becoming commoditized, where now there's almost like UFO arms dealers in a way, selling solutions and packages and stuff that we've seen at the summit, and it'll keep growing and growing as time goes on, which is pretty nice.
Yep. And I think that the idea kind of behind that is to standardize. The idea of standardization, I think, is great, because that jumps into the data handling. That gets us quality assurance and some control. It makes sure that the collection method, such as hardware and protocols, are all kind of congruent, so that when we get data, it's measurable between teams. Structure and format, I think, is important to standardize, along with how we store and propagate the data, right? And I think that that's another thing, that the idea of an event like this is, it's not so much peddling wares as demonstrating how off-the-shelf technology, when you use a little of this and a little of that together in a package, can be used as a skywatching tool. Yes, I did see a lot of people that did have off-the-shelf devices that they were literally selling as part of their operation, but the standardization and propagation of the data is really the idea behind that. So I know most of the people that were actually trying to get their devices out weren't really profiting. I think it was literally at cost for most of these people. So I think the idea is for standardization.
Yeah, I think the last episode we did here on 55 with Dan Starkey, I think that was just great. He's got LiDAR of all the properties at the Bradshaw Ranch. He said he found anomalies in a number of them, and he uses that LiDAR for construction work. And he doesn't have, when he goes onto a job site, black blobs and weird anomalies. He just straight. I mean, I saw how that works, and that's very, very high tech. So you shouldn't have any anomalies at all. So we got lidar, we got thermal. He's got the entire area drone mapped. Next, we will take like scientific tools, like you were suggesting, tri-field meters, and go back to these properties and look for readings, dead spots, any type of anomalies we can get. Take thermal cameras and look for cold spots that are invisible to the naked eye, and multi-spectrum devices to go there, and then do a long sky watch with a little bit better gear. So after what we did last week at Sedona, I kind of see, okay, here's what I would like to do next time. And if anybody watched the first episode Skywatcher on Prime, you get an idea where our art team here is going. And the podcast here, you get to see supplemental episodes of it in real time as we're going back, and the viewer can participate and suggest, hey, try this, or hey, try that, or here's like Tim, you are too, even though you're up there in Oregon. Your ideas are being implemented the next week into the study. So this is just great. Everybody gets to participate instead of like a lockdown, behind closed door, wait 5 years for a paper to come out that no one fucking reads, right? Because no one fucking even watches half of these things, and it's visual. So if they're not going to watch a podcast, the hell if you can get a person to read, PDF paper.
You're absolutely right. Hold on 1 minute. I'm going to have to just mute for you guys for 1 second, if that's possible.
All right. So we're going to start off first, what happened or is happening in El Paso, Texas. We had basically a whole shitload of incompetence going down on a federal level, where they said we had cartel drones. They just keep changing the story over and over and over about what they're doing with high-powered lasers. Our military is not dumb. The people that join the service and they get certified to do different things, they don't just hand you the keys to a jet or the keys to fuel a jet or to maintain them. You have to be certified. You have to go through all these programs to do this. So they're not dumb people, but the government does put out dumb press releases. And it's like we're seeing a modern day version of the Roswell event all over again, where, oh, it wasn't this, it was a balloon. And it's like, no, we're not stupid. Back in the 40s, right after World War II, and 47, 2 years fresh off of kicking the Nazis' ass and defeating Japan, that was peak patriotism of the USA. And if the government told you something, the people believed it. Not in 2026, not after all this 7 million Epstein files. Nobody believes a goddamn thing that comes out of the government on a federal level anymore. We believe the exact opposite. And last time they talked about shooting down balloons, there was definitely goddamn UFO involved. That was under the Biden administration, when all of a sudden they announced, hey, we're shooting down that China balloon. And then after the China balloon was detected and shot down off the Atlantic, then they just started shooting down UFOs left and right in a series where they shot one down over the Yukon. Then we had one over, Michigan area of the Great Lakes. And they ain't telling us anything about it. So here we are again with more. Oh, we're shooting it. Well, okay, wait, how about this? Oh, no, how about that? So I don't believe a goddamn thing they're telling us. So we should always default to lie. When it comes to the military and official excuses and things flying in the sky, lie. Okay, think about this. When they shot those UFOs down, did they go by the book? Did they contact the FCC and say, hey, we want permission to use classified lasers, classified, air-to-air missiles? No, they just say, take the son of a bitch down and we'll deal with the fallout later. Now we're reading about, oh, well, these people in the Border Patrol, they didn't have this or they didn't have that. That's all bullshit, right? The government does not work on that level. They don't get out manuals and go, well, let's see, we have to contact, well, shit, it's the weekend and it's, government don't work on President's Day, so we can't shoot them down this weekend. The fuck they can't. They do whatever the hell they want, and then they just write up the excuses later, and we're seeing something like that in El Paso. That's kind of my take of this. What do you think, Tim? What's your take on all this El Paso stuff?
Oh yeah, that is still up and emergent. I believe there's still a lot of information that we'll just never know. What I saw looked interesting. I just think, you know, for them to shut something down initially and expect it to be for 3 days is a long time. And so it's just anomalous is still, and I think we need more information on it, which I don't expect that we'll get. This is not going to be public information, in my opinion, especially once the FAA gets involved.
Well, it's the first time that they shut down airspace since 9/11. So when the Biden administration shot those three UFOs down, there was no, hey, we're shutting down the airspace. We have to clear people out of here. We don't want to accidentally do something. It was like, no, we're letting Hellfire or Sidewinder missiles come off. This was the first time an F-22 ever shot anything down was UFO, right?
Right. Right. And then they used a ground-based laser to take down the quote-unquote balloon that shut down the airport. Now, I think that's pretty interesting that they brought in a laser to take down a balloon. It seems like massive overkill.
There's a couple pieces of media that came out before the announcement. Let's look at what's going on here. We have a contact, Mario Vallejo, lives over in El Paso, and I texted him to see what was up. I haven't heard anything back, but I figured we might be able to get the ear down on what's going on locally. Let's check out this video from El Paso, Texas, that a person shot of object in the daytime.
So I actually had to pull to the side of the road, see if I could get a good shot of this. You can barely see it, looks like a dot here, but it's actually huge. And there was stuff coming out from the bottom of it. That's crazy.
What's interesting is this person had no idea that the next day all this rigmarole was going to happen. And he's filming something like a big black blob off in the distance, saying there's something coming out of the bottom of it, which is interesting because grocery bags don't launch small grocery bags. Balloons don't do that. We don't have orb or drone motherships yet. China's apparently working on that. So for something to launch smaller things or drop is interesting because Chinese lanterns like the only thing I can think of that drip, and we're looking at a daytime sighting. Again, it's blurry, but that was a precursor before the shutdown, so it makes me just go, you're lying again, when it comes to UFO stuff.
And of course, the elephant in the room here is that we don't miss the watermark in the bottom left there from Enigma. So this was a piece of footage that had been uploaded to Enigma Labs, which is a data collection unit that has been put out there by Peter Thiel. And part of that project was to collect and own anything that is uploaded to that website. So that's why you see the watermark there, A. And then B, any of the original information has been subject to Enigma's AI protocol. So it may not be original information when you're reading data. It could have been washed through AI and then a synopsis created. So it's very hard when you're getting information from the Enigma Labs website, even on any kind of research level. So good eye picking this video out, because it's a good piece of video, but oh man, Enigma Labs is always a big red flag.
Oh, no shit. I'm glad you said that instead of me, because the guy who owns it is a realtor here locally in North Scottsdale area. Nobody likes him in ufology. He doesn't have any friends. He's his own best friend. The whole thing with him and Peter Thiel, of him not explaining, him and Ha and a way around it. And he bought the UFO Congress. There used to be this UFO Congress that was done by Bob Brown family years ago, and they had this VHS archive, and you could back order VHS tapes. And then, I mean, it's a gold mine of old ufology, of retro stuff. Like, for instance, Jonathan Reed, the guy who called Art Bell and said, "I got a dead alien in the freezer." I was at one of these UFO conferences. I saw him on stage bawling. The dude was kept in character. I mean, all that's gone because this guy Rojos, who runs Enigma Labs, took it and turned it offline. You can't order that anymore. So the least he could do is take these VHS tapes and digitize them, put them up there to rent or sell. But it's gone. It's gone. Right. So his motives suck. I mean, so you know what? The original video, like you're saying, could be clearer, and he blurred it out, because I wouldn't put it past that guy.
Anything's possible, but also consider the old relationship you just mentioned there with Alejandro Rojas and MUFON. Because back when Enigma Labs was beginning, there was some hushed speak about them purchasing data from MUFON, potentially. And, that wasn't really great with people that had sent their information to MUFON, that now they were selling that information to Peter Thiel's new company for them to acquire it for their databases. Now, just don't take me on my word for that. That's just hushed rumors. There's no confirmation of that necessarily. I don't know if that took place, but I do remember hearing those hushed rumors at the time. Again, more red flags really for me when it comes to that, because as an experiencer that's looking to share information, to get information back, there's never any kind of reciprocation when it comes to that. And when I go to the websites, it's really a struggle to glean any information from their websites. And I feel it's almost a purposeful way where it's very easy to upload your case, but it's very hard to download or glean any information from their website on other cases or other sightings similar to yours if you're trying to research perhaps, or anything along those lines. That's just experiencer frustration, perhaps me expressing there.
Well, MUFON, at least they had that database where it was public, and then they put it behind a paywall, which is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
Now, if you report your stuff to MUFON, the number of people who are going to see it is not very high, because it's only on there temporarily. They'll let you see the new reports for free, but they'll roll off when other reports come in. So it's going to get swallowed up into this archive that only people pay like $500 a year or something have access to. So it's like, what? If you write a report sent to MUFON, a local case investigator is going to look at it. You'll become a number for that month. But as far as actual investigators, a couple handfuls that pay the $500. You're better off going to a massive truck stop in Texas and go into the bathroom where they take a shit and etch your story on the shitter wall of what you saw. And over time, more people will read your report on the bathroom of a fucking truck stop shithouse than it will going into a MUFON black hole. That's what they are. They're worse than a truck station shithouse as far as getting black holes. Now, I'll never be invited to speak to the place, but I really don't care.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people that see things in the skies, they're like, I just saw this in the sky and I've got photos. And I'm like, it's great to report to New Fork and some of these reporting agencies that really do good work. And I think MUFON, initially was a great organization. But I think reporting it to your local paper or trying to get it into the media is great, because what you're doing is you're really documenting it then for the Times, because that is a very researchable piece of information. It's usually a Google away for people that are trying to find information on similar sightings to your own. So if you can possibly get someone, locally to write the story with your photos and get it in the paper or a magazine or something that documents it properly outside, perhaps of a reporting agency, that's might be the best way to get your information out to the world to see if your story matches up, if that's your intent.
Let's check out the second video from El Paso. This is also a daytime cluster of 3 objects in triangle formation. I don't know if you've seen this. Let's take a look. So that was a little bit of that video. Just three objects in triangle formation going towards the clouds. Now there's a guy named Jackson. He's the sphere guy. Is there a sphere network? I'm thinking Peter Jackson for some reason. But he talks about the sphere network that there's 3 types of spheres: ones that are high up in the sky, ones that are low, that fly around in our houses, and then another level. And the third level that we see in triangle formation, he will, when he finds this clip, he will say there's more proof of the sphere network over the area. So I'm thinking that if the government has the opportunity, they're shooting one down. If there's a UFO there that's just hovering, acting stupid, kind of not watching at 6, and here comes some people with the laser or whatever, or however they shoot them down, like EMP or depleted uranium rounds or whatever they're using to take these things down. They're going to take it down, I think, especially if it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Put out a cover story. I mean, remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the whole fake, hey, there's gas here. You got to have these gas masks on. And then he takes them off. There's no gas. There's always a fake story behind this stuff.
Tom, have you ever managed to film anything like what we're seeing here yourself?
Yeah, the first video where he had a blob, right? That's what I shot in 1994 in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I think I played it on here once. Very piss poor bad video. I was shooting in the daytime. I wanted to film a tornado, right? Because a lot of UFO guys are like into tornado hunting and shit. And I wanted to see if a tornado happened to pop down, but it didn't. Instead, I saw a football flying through the clouds into the storm that was the size of a city block, like
wow.
a quarter of a mile long. It was huge.
Wow.
And I videotaped it, and the video's
You know what? And my team filmed something like your first video out in Indian Springs, very near a military base out there. And it looked like maybe a jellyfish or a blob that was dropping something. So, that was anomalous to us. We hadn't seen anything like that before. But what about the one where it looks like 3 white blobs? That is something pretty typical. I've filmed it before, and it's a very hard thing to film. And I'm wondering if you've had a chance to film anything similar, and if you've been able to perhaps figure out what you were filming as something mundane, or potentially did it get into your gray other box?
Well, yes, the second video that I played briefly that showing him in a triangle formation, I shot something like that in 95. I had a dream about UFOs, woke up, went outside. About, I don't know, 40 minutes later, I was filming this thing. And I saw it through a spotting scope. It was a disc, a football shape, kind of like a disc, but very thin, had a little dome on top. And I'm like, holy shit. And I filmed it. And then these other 2 objects dropped down from the sky. They formed a triangle real quick. Then they flew away. And a computer analysis of those objects are that these objects are vibrating or shimmering very, very fast, faster than 30
Hmm.
frames a second. So when you look at it, you're seeing like a Jacob's ladder type of head freaking out with the object because we're just don't have the
Right.
frames per second to get it
Good movie reference.
in a lock. Yeah.
Great movie. And what do you make of that? I mean, is that potentially the chip trying to read information? Do you think it's a camera thing, or do you think that's literally what the object is doing? And what is your interpretation of that? Because
Well, the
that's
object,
interesting.
not all objects do that. Some of
Mhm.
them do that, some of them don't. Like some of the things like I've seen with hockey pucks, I've seen this in Mario Vallejo's videos where the object is rotating. You're seeing kind
Right.
of a rotation with it. That's a different type of thing than the shimmering thing. The shimmering thing, I've seen it in my videos. I've seen it in Bill Crystal videos. He's the guy on Twitter called ProPixel. He's got this stuff. Other people have this. This is where the object is just vibrating or shaking so fast that every frame it's almost like a laser shooting a star that's
Hmm.
circled in a triangle then a square or something and it's almost like a hologram
Yeah.
type of object. It's a different type of optical behavior than we see in some of these other videos.
Yeah.
But wrapping up on the shoot down, first this happened on they issue a no-fly zone for 18,000 feet for 10 days. That's weird. What's there for 10 days, right? And then all of a sudden, that really, really got attention. And then all of a sudden, the next day, medical flights and commercials are grounded. They changed it to a cartel drone. I remember hearing that on the news. What,
Yeah.
Mexico? So we close our airspace because Mexico flies a drone in. Then the Air Force ain't got control. So the narrative control is not their forte on this. And then it went to a laser test. And then it went to a party balloon story. And then it went to Custom and Border Patrol was handed over a laser and they're fucking around. And there's all these news agencies going in, well, exactly who and where's the paperwork? It's like, dude, there was no fucking, there is no employee. There probably was no laser test. This is a lot like the administration gets into a scandal and then they blame some staffer for it. And then later, the attention span of the public's like a goldfish. There was no staffer, right? It's just like in the I think it was the Chadwick Airport in the UK. They shut that thing down because of drones, right? Over a UK airport. They shut that place down for 3 days on and off. And then they arrested a couple and they said, you're under arrest for flying a drone over the airport. Let them go. And then they said there were no drones. What the fuck was it then? But just never mind. Go back to work, consume, and pay taxes. So, anyway, so that kind of gives us a little bit of talk here about this possible shoot down story. I don't know. I mean, I just don't trust anything they say. Party balloon? I mean, we'd go to jail if we had a high powered laser for party balloon. So it doesn't pass the smell test at all.
No. And I'll just, leave it with this more than likely showed up on radar. So balloons do not show up on radar unless they're weather balloons. And this definitely was not a weather balloon. So yeah, we can leave it at that.
All right, so let's talk about the UAP summit. This was last week, and I got to watch most of what happened on Saturday. So first up, there's the opening remarks, and let me just say, Reed Summers did one hell of a great job. I was very pleased with everything he did. This was a Zoom meeting, so most of the presentations were PowerPoint, and the PowerPoints were pretty well done by all the presenters. As far as Zoom goes, all of us have done Zoom meetings or team meetings. And sometimes they just go to hell with the mics not working or, all that. This went great. So kudos to Reed Summers for doing this. I would like to see him do this every year or bi-yearly, because fuck, who wants to wait another year, right? What did you think? That's just kind of my overall thoughts of the UAP tracking and detection summit.
Yeah. This was a great lead into 2026. Its timing was perfect because this is when everyone's gearing up for another summer. And I was very impressed with the production and the list of people also that came to the table. And they all came prepared with a great presentation with up to the minute information, anything that they'd captured of interest in the past, year, 3 months. Some of it was fresh, like from a week ago, sort of thing. But Michael Lembeck, great. The list is huge, but I would say some of the lead presenters were pretty big names. We don't need to drop them here in this very moment, but anyone that wants to go and look up the UAP Detection and Tracking Summit of 2026 can do so and see all of the list of people. Now, Tom and I are going to hit some of the highlights here. I know I've got some stuff saved that I definitely want to run by Tom. We haven't talked about it in depth yet, so we may not agree on everything, and that's great. We often do agree, but the potential is when it comes down to tech, we have a very different array of gear that we use. We only maybe overlap on one or two tools right now. So I think that's actually great because when we hit the field, we have a big web, that we are laying down. So I was absolutely impressed. I learned a ton, and I don't usually get a lot out of events. So great presentation. Yeah, my hat's off to Reed. Looking forward to the next one.
No doubt. Yeah, we should not agree on everything. That's the whole thing. That's why we have different perspectives, different points of view, different experiences. So Reed and Richard Hoff opened it up. And then from there, we had, let's see, Eric Burleson. So I don't remember Eric. Oh yeah, Eric Burleson and Matt Ford came out. And I could say that as far as the demeanor of like with Matt Ford, I think it changed a little bit when Eric wasn't around because a lot of these guys, when it came to the media presentations, and some of them, these were media folks, they just seemed kind of defeated and exhausted through the whole UAP amendment process that goes through, doesn't pass, comes up, doesn't pass, comes up, doesn't pass. And then the other thing going on with the news of the whole Epstein thing, people are just, the government lies. They just lie. And this is all on Trump's doorstep or the next president, whoever comes after him. The whole thing of just chit-chatting with whistleblowers seems almost, to me, pointless to a degree because we know there's people that are working in these programs and they'll go to jail if they come out and talk. But where we do, we're kind of stuck.
Well, Tom, you are highlighting such a fantastic point right now that I feel every day. And that is that the media and people that are looking for disclosure are so bored and disheartened on the UFO topic. I and the scientists and the people that are boots on the ground, we're thrilled. Like every week I have new evidence I'm running by. I've got new data daily. I'm like screening all of my devices for more data. Like to me, this topic is full of surprises still weekly. And I share them with you. I share them with my fellow, scientists that are doing this. And I call us scientists simply because it is what it is. And I find it thrilling. So I'm not bored with UAP UFO. I'm exhilarated. And, every day I feel I'm a little closer to finding my own personal answers, right? Which is why I'm here. And I'm always thrilled if I feel like I've got a nugget, I bring it to the group. I'm like, is this valuable nugget? Like, is this good data? And then we hum and har over it. And we're like, yes, this is good, or no, it's not, and that's thrilling. I don't think that you and I have had too much time gap between exciting conversations on this topic. And disclosure to me is a non-issue. Like I'm not looking for disclosure from our government. So I expect frustration, right, from the people that are looking for it there. I encourage people every time I hear that is to go buy a very simple device of their choice and go out and seek this, because you don't have to spend a lot to go out and find it and look and have an experience of your own that'll clarify what's going on. And that is 100% what citizen science is all about.
You bring up a good point, Tim, that what we do is we put our eggs into the self-disclosure basket here, that we're going for our own personal catastrophic disclosure or whatever we can film and gather up for evidence. And then there's a whole nother side of ufology that they don't do this stuff. They will turn on a podcast, but that's about as far as they go for research. And then they want to get on some people who tell stories that this one time, the military camp, we saw this. Well, okay, that was cool for a while, but they're still in that camp. They're still in, we're not going to do this UAP summit type stuff. Unless there's a whistleblower summit, then they'll tune in. I mean, I'm just kind of disappointed in that. I look at the numbers on Reed Summers' website, and he has a lot of good stuff for free to watch, and they have very low hit numbers, right? So if this guy was doing whistleblowers, instead of like, say, 7,000 views on a video that came out 10 days ago, he'd have 70,000 views, right? If it was Jeremy Corbell dropping another FLIR video, million views. But if it's, here's how you can go film that FLIR stuff yourself, 7,000 views. So the people making their money monetizing the whistleblower thing, which is like 80% of the UFO field, I think, estimate, that's where their money is. That they're all in on catastrophic testimony. And that's all they're going to get, because they don't have evidence. None of these people walk out of a UFO area that has ships inside with anything other than a fucking story. But that their eggs in that basket, ours are over here.
That's right. And you're exactly right. There's a massive array of people and, you know, their motivations for being in this field. And I don't think it's wrong to necessarily make money in this field. That's fine. It should be an outcome of your work. It shouldn't be your motivations for the work, I guess, you know. But we can definitely move on to the actual meat of what we learned, if you like, or
sure. Richard Doylan did. Yeah, Richard Doylan did a presentation I watched. I'll tell you about the ones that I saw. He did a great one on USOs. I think he had something like 700 different case studies, and he put them into like 16 different slots looking for similar patterns. Later on, they came out, I think it was Science Bob Weir, announced some type of underwater sonar UFO tracking. Because I'm like, well, how are we going to do anything with the water? We're kind of stuck. We can't do much. And they announced some type of sonar type of project. And I was thinking, damn, that's probably illegal too, right? Because our government in this fucking country, the FCC and the FAA think that they own the electromagnetic spectrum, the full everything, and you have to pay for slices to use in that spectrum. And then they probably own the fucking water too, right? We own underwater, and you can't broadcast sonar signals that'll screw with our subs or detection. Watch that come out. You know, because we all have that ITAR stuff that deals with passive radar. And this was talked about in a lot of these things. So moving on from Richard Doylan, they were talking about, let's see, Bob McGuire, Science Bob, did a great presentation. The Tedesco brothers did a great presentation on gear. They actually did a presentation where they were showing results of videos that they have shot and detected. So they were showing some of that. And then on Reed Summers' Emergent podcast, which is on YouTube, there's an 1.5-hour presentation that's recent with the Tedesco brothers. That's free, so you don't have to pay for that. So people can watch that. Richard Hoff did from the SCU did a presentation with Adam Yingling. I did not get to see day 2 because I was in Sedona with the team filming and doing the stuff. But I did come back and watch some of it Monday and Tuesday night. Why don't you pick up from there, Tim?
Yeah, Michael Lembeck gave a great presentation on citizen science sensor systems, which is right up Tom's alley here. And of course, discussing UFO DAP and other examples similar to what a UFO DAP system can look like. So obviously, he covers things that are hemispherical, high res, including some of the image processing and reconstruction software necessary, the All Sky monitor, which is something that you can buy from a website pre-made, or you can go and get the recipe and build it on your own. Talks about night vision recorders, the L3 Harris in particular with the PVS 14. I think that's a pretty standard, night vision recorder. But what he proposes is a neural network motion detection system attached to that, where you can have an array of these, which is a great example of a sensor system to have watching the skies at all time, and perhaps a 360 array. And then a pan tilt zoom system, very similar to what Tom has. And they do use the Dehua, I think it's like I forget the exact one, but you can pick the Python controller or any controller associated, and then take it into radar. But before I do that, Tom, do you want to jump in and give an example or your opinion on some of the 4 systems that I just kind of ran through as his go-to?
Yeah, there was one of the presentations. Ron Ulch only had 15 minutes, and then he shared it with some other people where he was doing a rundown of UFODAP, the capabilities, what it can do. So some of these were basically, here's our equipment, here's what it's capable of. A lot of them, I was shocked that they were talking about a radar or passive radar and different types of things with that. One of the ones I was really interested in was the talk with James Fowler from Skywatch. Now, he came in and gave a presentation. And to me, there were a few people, I hate to say it, but I'm fans of some of these people. And there's like certain people I want to see more than others. Couldn't wait to watch the Tedesco brothers. Love those 2 guys. Same thing with Ron Ulch. I'm a big Ron Ulch fan. And James Fowler, learning about the dark side of skywatching and all of that, and the dog whistle. So those were a few. I also watched some stuff on with Chrissy Newton on Sunday from her broadcast. And yeah, a lot of these people that cover this in the media are just frustrated because we've hit a wall. This is up to the president now to talk about. One thing that just kind of clicked with me is I think the reason that Hike Vision and the Dehua cameras are banned from federal contracts from, I think, 2019 is because we don't have, the U.S. does not have back doors in them. So they accused China of what they want. They said China may or may not have back doors in these Dehua camera systems, so no federal U.S. money can be spent to put these on nuclear bases, on military bases, watching any contracting stuff with federal dollars, cannot use them because they may or may not have back doors. And I'm thinking, fuck you, hypocrites. You guys have back doors into all of our stuff, right? That whole Guthrie thing with that came out with Google secretly recording everything, right? All these Ring cameras, all this stuff is hooked up to the U.S. Law enforcement, the intelligence communities, and they don't want these cameras because they don't have a back door in it. I'm convinced all of our operating systems with Windows and everything, like Snowden warned us about, you think you're safe behind a firewall. You're not, right? You think you're safe behind these phones unlocked, looking at your face. You're not. They have back doors into that.
And that's why we should all be using VPNs.
Yeah, and then hopefully these are not VPNs that are run by the NSA, running a fucking shell company, thinking, Nordic VPN. Well, we own that one too. So you just kind of doomed, playing the whack-a-mole intelligence game with this community. Now, when it came to James Fowler and the dog whistle, um, Gary Nolan. Gary Nolan, let's talk about him. He did a great presentation on his own for over an hour. So, I mean, that was worth these guys that they had and a couple women were worth just the $50 to watch this. So I'm convinced this is the way to go to do these Zoom meetings in the future. The Contact in the Desert should be like this, because I thought Contact in the Desert was a bunch of people putting a bunch of chairs around. You get out your sky watching gear. People, tell stories. We build a fire and hope for a UFO to show up. Instead, it's give me $1,000. Here's your hotel rooms. It's like a fucking Disney ripoff. So for like $50 or whatever, 2 days, you could watch them at your leisure. You could see it later. Really good guests. This is the way to go, I think, for ufology to try and break out. But
yeah, and I think that's the difference between a convention and a symposium. It's you get what you pay for. It's either entertainment or a learning experience. You get what you pay for.
Now with Gary goes deep into the science type stuff. And if it was Gary, and let's say we had Gary working on our team, I don't even think we'd be doing this podcast, because he don't want nobody talking about nothing. He wants everything done by the book, science wise. You do everything. You repeat experiments, repeat. You test. You get an average. You write a paper. You send it out to the peers. But I don't know how long I'm going to live, man. So I just ain't waiting. I can't keep my mouth shut, a secret, sign an NDA, film something in 2026 to tell you guys about in 2030. I'm not wired like that.
Yeah. And I think Gary, in his hour presentation, was very uncensored. And I enjoyed listening to his firsthand experience working with the Skywatch team when they claimed that, I believe, the egg object came down, but they weren't able to recover it. And Gary's like, well, I never saw anything, actually, but I was there at the time, and I think that there had been a lot of information where he had supposedly confirmed this thing had taken place that Skywatch had claimed, where he was like, I was there, but this was not something I saw with my own eyes. So I find, the clarity, his straightforwardness, very refreshing. I'm very down the middle when it comes to anybody else outside of my immediate work group. I have to really be face to face with people to get a feel of them. But he seems pretty legitimate. I think that he does, have that thirst for knowledge on this, and a deeply intelligent person, with a big understanding of science and science base and what's possible and what's not. And he's very realistic with how he delivers things, but you can tell there is a lot that he still holds back,
Yes. When I was listening carefully when they were talking about the dog whistle. Now, when you think about the dog whistle type of thing, you would have to think, well, if you're putting out something, it has to go out a certain range for these things to even see, because of limitations. So you have to think about that. Now, Gary talked about he talked about an emission, and James Fowler talked about it's an emission. So for people at home, the one thing I like that I can do that the Descos brothers don't do is I can dumb shit down to the layman's term. And the Desco brothers, when they talk in short wave and long range and medium range infrared, and people just, they don't get it because they're talking in jargon terms and acronyms. So when these guys, when James and Gary Nolan were talking about emissions, what that means is you are sending out something. If you have something passive, that means you're collecting it. Okay. So like if you have an active radar system, that thing active means you're sending out an emission. When it sweeps around, you send out a pulse. That pulse goes out at a signal that a signal detector can detect. And it sounds like everything they did they somehow got licensed through the FCC, which is damn near impossible. Because if we tried it, we're going to get denied. And I'm going to get denied because I'm living in a city. But these guys lived in some type of range. And they asked both of them, James and Gary Nolan, are you guys doing a Skywatch this year? Both of them reacted in nearly the exact same way, given a coy response, saying, nah. Because when they did do these Skywatches, they did them from like January to I think July or so. So they did them for like half a year. And what most people don't know is they started in 2021. And then they did them every year. So this has been going on for some time. And Gary kind of lays out the backstory that they didn't have radar working at first. Then they hired some guys that came in to help them with the radar. Then they started getting a radar lock on these objects. They talked about that you cannot see UAP from a helicopter. For some reason, they could photograph a helicopter and UAP from the ground, but the helicopter people could not see UAP from the air. As far as their data, we will never see the data in raw form because, for one, the raw radar data, unless you're a radar expert, you're not going to know what to do with it. The main reason it gives a dead giveaway where this location is. So for them to Skywatch this year right now, which I think they're doing, they got to keep the place secret. You know, you don't want assholes from the internet going out there going, I bought 100 balloons and released them. I'm going to fuck with these people. You know, you want to keep the area of study natural. But so I think the dog whistle is probably something that's radio frequency that they're emitting. My best guess, I was telling you, Tim, the other day, is they're sending something out around 3 gigahertz, and they got something back at 1.6, I think. That was my interpretation of listening to James. What do you think? Did you see that?
Well, I definitely know that they're using passive radar in particular. And the real great confirmation came when I heard that they were using the exact same passive radar as my team uses. So they're using it in conjunction with 2 Yagi, Y-A-G-I, radar dishes. They're basically like TV antenna looking things, and they can be used directionally. So you have 2 of them set up with, and I'll tell you the brand, it's Kraken, the Kraken 5X SDR passive radar system. It's not a secret. I've been using that for about 7 years or 6 years, however long I've been doing this. It was one of the first pieces of gear I put into my unit, you know, and back in 2020 or whatever it was. So that in conjunction with Python code, obviously, and then something called Echoes code can be established as well. And you can do plasma trail detection with that. So the dog whistle is a good question. I know they're using this as far as radar detection. Now, as far as you're saying, putting something out there, the only thing that I'm aware of that they could be using are these pulse emitters, and it's basically just an EMF pulse emitter. And so you can only use it around certain devices because it'll throw certain things off, but there's a wavelength that can be used. It's kind of like an EMF pulse, but the point is that you've got like a 4-mile radius that this can have an effect on. So, you know, that's a pretty big part of the aerospace above you too, you know, as well. So you would need permission for something like that. And so they would have to get permission from the FAA for an emitter of any kind. I would never recommend building one of your own and using one. It's just danger. And then the other thing that could be potential is microwave technology. And that's something else that we've talked about, but you know, it's also another dangerous technology. So I think it's somewhere in that realm. I think you nailed it on the gigahertz, about 8. Seems like that would be a fairly reasonable pulse to put out for distance wise.
If it's legal and they're doing all this sale, there are a couple places I mentioned where they're possibly doing this. Some location in California, which is, I don't know if you can get licenses from them, or possibly Idaho, Wyoming area up there where there's Utah wide open spaces where you can get a license to mess with radar, to mess with, because I was thinking about, yeah, I could try, oh shit, that'd be illegal. Everything I do in this town is illegal, right? If it's going to be active or a pulse. So I was thinking, well, I could make a dog whistle, but I couldn't legally do it. So here's the thing: a lot of people won't think about. All this stuff, if this is legal, is sitting around in a governmental database. The FAA and the FCC have these databases with all these people, and everything that they do. The dog whistle is going to be in this database for public consumption for you to bring up. So all this data could be hiding in plain sight. And when you go to apply for radar licenses, experimental or whatever, you have to go through. I did this and I documented the whole thing on this podcast. So how you do it, where you do it, no government databases and everything. Because I probably forgot about it. Now, if I want to do it again, I go rewatch my own shit. So their stuff is in there. So it's searchable by name to a degree. So I'm wondering if we could use some of the new AI tools and have it rifle through these databases looking for the dog whistle, looking for an active type radio frequency that would send out a pulse, or however they would word it. There's other tools people aren't aware about that I use sometimes, called a spider. And what a spider is a web crawler that you could send into a website and download their whole website. There's other ones called mean spiders, which do not read the robot.txt rules on a website, and they ignore it, and they dictionary attack your website, and they start guessing folder names and looking for stuff. I actively did that on MUFON. I sent a spider into MUFON to download their whole thing. Got kicked out of there. Then I sent a spider into the National UFO Reporting Center, bad Tom, to go in there and download the whole fucking database. And then what happened was WordPress security kicked in and said, hey, this IP address is bringing us to a crawl, because I'm downloading the whole website, right? Got locked out. My rotated IP address. So that stuff is in there. It's searchable. But I think, to me, the biggest story is who in the hell is funding Skywatcher. Gary Nolan said this was expensive, right? So they funded all these guys. They funded probably their airplane tickets to come in, to hang out. They probably give them like between $300 to $500 a day in a stipend for expense reports, for per diem. So they did this for 5 years, and they have $1 million radar. So somebody is flipping the bill here, and it's not going to be poor people. So the list of suspects of who's paying for this, to me, is the big story behind the scenes that everyone's missing. Everyone's looking for that UFO where they had to put a building over it. I'm looking, who is this billionaire that's secretly funding Skywatcher? Is it Bob Bigelow? Number one, probably him. Brandon Frugal seems like the good billionaire. Or is it Peter Thiel, the Antichrist? What do you think? Antichrist, the good Christ, Brandon, or the neutral guy, Bob, kind of in the middle? That's one of those three, I think, paying the bills.
I hope it's self-funded. Like the Tedesco brothers, self-funded. My project, self-funded. Yours, self-funded. I think True Citizen Science is self-funded, so they have no one to answer to, no deadline, and nothing but presentation of real good data that's going to help move the truth of what's going on forward. You know, it's hard enough to wrap our head around this, you know, without the nonsense of who's paying who and having a deadline. Deadlines don't work when it comes to this, right? We can't predict it. We'd like to. We go to the same locations at the same time of the year to hopefully have repeatable data, but there's no guarantees. So to have somebody that you have to answer to with data, and you know they're looking at their watch or perhaps their bank account for some kind of reciprocation, that is not the right field to be doing this in. This is not an investment savvy field to get into. So, hopefully it's self-funded. I'm always very wary of anything that's funded or looking for funding. That is a massive red flag. We don't work on calendars. UFOs don't work on calendars. So,
Well, yeah, some of these guys, when I was watching the summit, they kind of want to have it both ways. They want to have kind of one group where the data goes, which I agree with, kind of goes into one area, like upload all your videos or all your data here. But then you got to figure out, is this a spook operation? Are we getting fucked again? And we're directly uploading to a shell database at the CIA, right? So we're all working for the CIA for free. But a lot of them say, let's all work together, but they won't work at the same time. They won't work with you. Skywatcher only works with Skywatcher paid people. It seemed like everybody in their group that they kind of talked about was either former intelligence asset, former military operator, military pilot. Guys like us aren't getting invited. We're not getting into that area at all. So they want to kind of share the information. They would like to see what we collect, but we can't necessarily see what they're collecting because Gary Nolan's got that shit hidden for peer review, which is hard to believe when they're all spooks, right? All of them fucking come from the CIA. So who's funding this, right? Is it, here's another one, Blackwater, the mercenary company that Eric Prince finances and does international rendition of people, kidnapping, CIA, probably crash retrieval. So these guys are right under like crash retrieval type team. And they did put out a couple of videos. They mentioned like, I think 12 different classes of UAP. They mentioned that they think like 8 of them crashed or fell to the ground, and they went out looking for them and didn't find them because of a flood. So a flood's another one. Where does it rain? Well, it rains a lot in California. I don't know how much rain they get up north in Utah, right? Does it flood around Utah? So I just don't know. But the whole story is who is funding them, because when you think about it, a helicopter pilot, the fuel, you're easily going to hit hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. Then you're doing that for 6 months. So I'm just kind of ballparking. We're looking at whoever did that spent probably 30 to 50 million dollars every year for 5 years. So they spent like hundreds of millions of dollars funding Skywatcher. So it was either our tax dollars from a spook operation or a billionaire funded it. And I just don't, it doesn't seem like Brandon Frugal does stuff like this. This seems like a Bigelow or a Thiel type of a person behind something like that.
Potentially. And I think that the biggest telltale sign is that Gary admitted to having to sign an NDA, and that's why he was limited to what he could talk about from that experience. If you're signing an NDA, you're getting paid. It's probably a project that is, under wraps, not out there to share data. It's a one-way ticket. You're not going to be able to release anything from that experience. So, open science is what we're looking for the truth here. People that, aren't holding back anything, that are willing to share it. I think these are all things that aren't there for the money. A true nonprofit has to claim itself that way. And I don't believe there's anything attached to that looking like a nonprofit at this point that I've seen.
Well, but, remember Jake talked aggressively before, not at this summit, but before, about bringing one of these things down, that he was going to have this evidence in 2025. These guys are not fucking around. Now they claim everything they do is legal. It's all licensed through FAA and FCC, right? What if these guys are located in west of El Paso? And what happened was they went to shoot one of these things down, and then the government said, oh, good. We got another one. And they came in with the cover story of, Keystone Cop, all this. Because whatever the government says, the media has to report it verbatim, and they do, or it's a conspiracy theory. They don't go in and investigate, like, was that the truth and whatnot? They spend no money on that at all. So possibly speculation here. What if what happened in El Paso was Skywatch went back on the job, summoned something in. We saw a video says, hey, it's dropping some stuff off the bottom, and they used any means necessary to bring it down. And then it was a recovery operation that was going to take 10 days. That's just me throwing this out there that we don't know who the fuck's funding it, and they're talking about bringing them down. And then we had airspace closed over at West El Paso area. That's why fucking productions hire me, because I think way outside the box. I don't think anybody's talking about what happened in El Paso was Skywatch. Jake finally got one down.
That would be great. That would be great. I am always worried that things like Skywatch, if they are an operation, are there to kind of put the UFO subject in a silly light, bringing things down, psionically, egg-shaped things that, they can't really talk about. It almost feels like the psyop to the science, the citizen science. You know what I mean? They're like, this is the citizen science, and here's what's happening with our team, with no evidence. They have Gary there, but he can't talk about it. It is kind of the perfect psyop setup to discredit citizen science, if you will. I'm not going to say that's what it is, but along your conspiracy theory of that's what's going on in Texas, this is my conspiracy theory on the whole Skywatch endeavor.
Well, that's what I said when they came out, is this is what a psyop looks like. They come in, they claim this big stuff right when the Jersey drones were coming on, all this hype. Ross Coulthart helped launch them on News Nation. That, look, these guys got egg video. Jake and his special forces recover them. Some weird story about hard drives in a lake that was never explained. They never properly explained what the fuck that egg video was. They're talking about shooting them down. And if they're talking about shooting them down, how the hell is that legal, right? I mean, I was reading some of the stuff with the Border Patrol and this laser that they have to notify this guy and they have to get permission. So that's not how UAP works, buddy. When UAP works, you don't get on the fucking red phone and go, hey, is some commissioner from the FCC around? Is it during business hours? We can only shoot them down during business hours according to the law. They just take the shit down with the weapons and write the fucking report later. Yeah. So I don't. I'm just speculating that maybe it was Skywatcher finally shooting one down with.
That would be great. I do feel like they would let us know if it was, though. You saw how quickly News Nation reported on that egg video before they could even confirm it, and there was no retraction once it was confirmed to be not real. And that was, offensive, if you will, to people that take this subject seriously,
Oh, that on social media, I was reading that when that egg video came out and they were hyping it, showing a helicopter pulling a chain, a rope in the daytime. On the news. And it's like, oh shit, there are people that probably fucked up and told people at work, the UFO cover-up ends tonight, and told everyone at work. And the next day went back to work, looked ridiculous. And then that video apparently wasn't from Jake Barber. Ross's assistant, the woman, got that video from somewhere else. So this was just kind of unethical reporting by News Nation to report on something and then bait and switch everyone and then say, well, here's something of an egg video. And then it's like, well, why don't you dive into this egg video? Who gave you that? A burner phone or some dead drop? Really? Come on. It's just as bad as that egg video that gets shot down by the Hellfire, right? No fucking chain of custody, hype, gets people to watch it, sells commercials.
Yeah. Unfortunate indeed.
Yeah, like with the kidnapping. This is in my end of the woods here over in Arizona. It's on the local news. You know who should have paid the ransom? The fucking network that Guthrie works for. They made so much money off of that. they had more coverage of that woman, I think, than we had of the 9/11 attacks. We had 5 days of nonstop wall-to-wall coverage when that crazy man shot up Las Vegas, and never to be talked about again. And this got 5 days for that Las Vegas. This gets over into 12 days of bullshit. This shows us that our media doesn't do the job. They do oversaturation with stories really no one cares about. And then if there's something life-changing like UFOs or whatever, the whole Epstein thing, dead silence. Dead silence on that. So even if we had catastrophic disclosure, would they cover it? Or would they cover bullshit mountain?
What's your opinion of the potential of Trump releasing some information?
Next to zero. Next to zero. Because he can't make money off of it. And Trump is always the center of attention. So if aliens got to be the center of attention, he wouldn't like it. Now, I'm pretty sure he had a talk by his son and some of his advisors, Mark Rubio, and this talk probably happened to Obama and some of the predecessors, where they say, look, if you go out and you tell the country this speech that we have other visitors in life here and it was locked up by crooked predecessors in the government before you, and now you're going to set the record straight, you are going to be the most famous president in history, you will dwarf all those other people that came before you, and everything they did during their 4 years will look like nothing compared to this.
Right.
And the president's nope out.
It feels like Obama just recently came out and tried to beat him to the punch by saying that aliens exist, right? What was that about?
Yeah. I saw that brief clip. It goes, yeah, they're real. And a conspiracy that they didn't let him see them. And he's always very careful about what he says. He might be one of the guys they told a little bit of stuff, just a little bit, because he can parse his words. He thinks. You could actually see the guy thinking before his mouth moves. Now with Trump, I don't think they would trust him saying, because he can't really control himself. His mouth sometimes his biggest enemy is. But I don't know. Yeah, there's news he's going to come out this summer. I don't think so. But any president could have went down in history as the one, and they all passed up. And I just think, why? Why would you pass that up? What? Just to be another mediocre guy, just to be a tax cut guy or a health care guy or whatever their pet peeves are during their 8 years? Do you think he's going to do anything? I don't. My eggs are in.
I'm massively skeptical, obviously, just because we've got 80 plus years, of this topic being just obfuscated completely. If there isn't a direct benefit, I don't see why he would bother. And this fact that this came from a British filmmaker, it's like, how did you have this relationship with somebody? I guess it came from one of the people very close to Trump that leaked it to this filmmaker. Why would they do that? So it all feels very iffy, because filmmakers tend to want to get attention right before they release a film. Potentially it's a media move. Who knows? These are also things that get forgotten very quickly. So it could have just been an eye grabber for this person looking for media attention. I am skeptical. But here's the thing: when Obama said that in that interview, not only did I feel like the interviewer missed a beat there, because why wouldn't you follow up deeper? But it made me feel that maybe Obama had heard the same news and lent some credibility to it and wanted to kind of get that jump in on Trump and just like get a little mic drop so that, Trump can be, once again, following in Obama's footsteps, releasing something. So, that made it kind of go up in value to me when Obama did that. So I linked it to that being like, oh, Obama's trying to get the jump on Trump. So, I hope he does, but I am skeptical.
Well, let's hope the guy asked him should have did a better follow-up. Maybe he had like 40 things to ask and he was just going down real quick with his time. Let's hope there's a follow-up with him. Uh, at this point, he's maybe the only guy that they could kind of ask. If anybody's going to ask Clinton anything, it's going to be about Epstein. He is engulfed in that at this point. No one's going to care about, well, did you do anything with UFOs? They're going to be talk about Gilligan's Pedophile Island. But what's sad is everybody in ufology has probably heard about that Chris guy who mentioned this presidential thing, but people don't know about this. This, I mean, look at Reed Summers has under 5,000 subscribers. He should have 500,000 subscribers for what he's doing. These Tedesco brothers talk here, couple thousand views. This should have thousands and thousands of views. People should have their ear to the ground and start following citizen science. Reed is doing a hell of a job. He should have way, way more people. But bullshit sells and facts doesn't. Facts is very boring. It's a frustration we face in this field. People say, well, where's the scientist? Here they are. You won't even look at them. Well, then why the fuck did you ask? It's almost like, where's the smoking gun? Here it is. You won't even look at it. So some of ufology is just pathetic. It's almost like some of the ufology people that watch are like Kardashian type people. Fucking near brain dead. This is the stuff. This is where you're going to learn it. Instead, well, Trump's going to say something. Fucking go back to the Niners, man. We need smarter people, smarter fans. We do not need stupid people and ufologists. We need the smart people. The stupid people can sit there and watch the circus and the bread, drink their beer, watch sports and become numb. We need scientists hitting this problem. That's my rant on that.
I 100% agree. In fact, you kind of bring us to new tech. Do you want me to run by a new device?
Let's hear about it. You
All right.
we were talking about this. You talked about this before, and I picked one up. This is a tri-field meter. Not too expensive. Records electromagnetic. It records radio frequencies and voltage. So you can find voltage for this. This is the next thing. I also have this other one, which is detects nuke signals. So this is a GM nuke detector white, and the brownish one is the new tri-field device. And I'll take that to the Bradshaw Ranch, and we'll do our thing there. But Tim, I want you to talk about your tech because you have awesome equipment, and I am here to learn and be your Padawan.
Well, so the UAP Summit had an off-the-shelf device that sounded great from a designer called Bill DePaula. Now, he made a device that he builds and actually makes it available even through Amazon. And so it's a device that's got multiple sensors on it. They call it an anomalous sensor array, or an ASA. Again, his name is Bill DePaula, DIPOALA, and he's an inventor of multiple devices that are used in the UFO UAP detection world. And this sensor that I'm going to show you here in a moment has a 3-axis magnetic MEMS sensor. So that's basically giving location and multi-axis magnetic MEMS sensing. And then it's got a 1.6 gigahertz EM detector, along with an ultrasonic detector, an infrasonic detector, a gamma ray sensor, electric field sensor. They call it a time dilation sensor or a laser range sensor, which I can explain deeper here momentarily. A UV ABC sensor, and then a 10 gigahertz EM detector. So that's for electromagnetic radiation. And so again, a GPS time dilation sensor in conjunction with that other laser range motion sensor I talked to you about briefly. And then finally, a true random number generator, which would be created at the time that the sensor was triggered. And so I'm going to pick it up and show you what the sensor looks like. And you can actually connect this sensor with an app that was designed where it logs and tracks all of the information that it collects. This is just the device recalibrating because it's been moved. And when I place it back down, it's going to go through these recalibrations again. But this is just giving you a quick visual. And you can literally look this detector up on Amazon and buy your own. Now, the idea that I have is that I would buy 3 of these and set them up at different locations when I would go somewhere, kind of in the perimeter, perhaps quite a distance apart. And as long as I got them connected with my Wi-Fi, and they're able to be read by the Starlink that I take with me, I would be able to have these trigger at a time showing me kind of in a triangulation mode that something's going on to the north, east, south, or west, and I'd be able to calibrate my cameras in the direction that these are going off. And so depending on the color that flashes when it detects, it can give you a visual of what is taking place, whether it's a magnetic anomaly, a gigahertz anomaly, or some kind of infrasonic. It'll give you that visually. And then, of course, you can go right to the app and it'll give you a detailed bit of information with the specifics of that, which can be offloaded as a PDF or an EX file, I believe. So I'm going to set this down. It's going to go off again, but that was a great piece of technology that I've incorporated into my little repertoire of devices. It's very simple. You could buy one and just have it at your home. And if it goes off, you'd be able to look and maybe get your cameras and orient yourself. Now, it may not be something, but it might. So we'll test it out in the field. That's right. It looks it's got a detector that will detect any kind of EM, electromagnetic, that comes through at 1.6 specifically. So we're looking specifically for that signal. And if it hits that device, it would alarm and give you the data in the log. It does, and I can I'm gonna hold my screen up. This is what the actual interface is gonna look like. And you can kind of see right up here, it's kind of showing how it would log the data. And it's very intuitive. When you get the device, you scan the back of it with your camera and it links you right to the app, whether you have an Android or an iOS. And you're able to download the associated app. You connect the device via Bluetooth, and there you go. You are on board with it. And it starts immediately detecting once you pull the battery swipe. And so far, I've logged 1 anomaly, in the past 48 hours, just here in my house.
How's that work?
So yeah, that alarm that you heard earlier would go off, and then it would flash either green, blue, red, or yellow. And that would be determining which of the 4 detectors is going off. And so I go to the app, I open it up, and they're like, hey, you had this geomagnetic anomaly, and here's the actual data associated with it. So if it had hit certain strikes of 0.1 or 0.2 or any kind of gamma ray information or electrical field information that fluctuates, it would show me that visually. And so visually, that's what these graphs look like. And so it shows you peaks, and it shows you what normal fields look like. So you can visually just look for a peak and be like, that is a gamma ray spike, or that is an electromagnetic spike. And so it is just very raw data. It doesn't mean UFO, but what it is it's a form that we believe can associate with UAP UFO activity, and it can, tell you go on outside and film, go look up. It's just one more thing, one more tool that we can demonstrate to see if it does, in fact, alarm for a UFO or UAP activity.
I wonder how that would pair with the UFODEP has a mission control thing, and they have a magnetic sensor in that one, and that one can actually record based upon that being tripped. So you could put in a certain parameter. I want to, or radio frequency. It trips on radio frequency, trips on something flying by, or a number of things. Ron's real good about putting user feedback and then saying, oh, okay, now with AI, which is great, we have Ron Plus. So it's not just him programming. He's using Claude and Anthropotic or Prothic, whatever the fuck that one is in the news. And that's cool because, I code too. And I use AI all the time to help with difficult projects and troubleshoot them. Yeah, it's a great tool. Anything else? Or does that need to be outside, inside? Does it matter?
Does not matter as long as you're within range of your device that you're recording onto, like recording the data to. It does get recorded to the app. So once it's connected to the app, it needs to be able to upload that to the app. So you have to be within range of Bluetooth.
Was anything like that mentioned at the UAP tracking summit?
This is exactly where I got that from. Yep.
Oh.
This was part of the new array of tools that have been kind of introduced into this field that they're trying, like I was saying, we're trying to get standardization, right? This is part of that. The same way the UFO DAP is a way to standardize the data amongst people that are out in all over the country, essentially, or the world. And that we can standardize the data and compare our notes and be like, well, I saw an orb at the time that I got this from this device. And I filmed this at the same time as I saw these kind of pieces of information. So we're trying to standardize the data so we can make associations from different boots on the ground investigators and data collectors.
One of the takeaways I remember from James Fowler is he was talking about, they have P1000 cameras and whatnot, but he was talking about what you don't have is like heads up display. You don't have the azimuth, the elevation, the zoom, tilt angle, all that stuff. And he's like, well, without it, your video is kind of not very good or something. And there's a fix for that. When I'm sky watching with the Beast outside, there's an app that I have on my phone, and what it does is it makes a camera app, and then gives you a heads-up display. It has the same heads-up display that you get in thermal scopes, and a lot of these new products where they'll show you it's built in. They have an inclinator built into the product. It shows you where you are, the tilt that you have, and all that stuff. So what I do is I take my phone and I turn that on and I start recording with the camera, but I put black tape over this so that everything's blacked out so it doesn't see. And I mount this on the Beast plan and tilt platform. So then I got a P1000 on there. I got any camera I bolt on there, and when it tilts up, we get the angle. We won't get the zoom though, but we'll get the angle and whatnot. Then when you're done with your Skywatch, you take this video that has the heads up, but it's black. Then you chroma key out the black, and you can now put the heads up display over your P1000, over any cinema camera that's on your pan and tilt system, because you incorporate it into your phone. So I've been doing that for, I don't know, since 2018 when I came up with that, or whenever this shit came out. So that's a way to put a heads-up display on a cinema camera by hybridizing. Yeah. Anything else you want to get into, Tim, before we wrap this up?
No, that was it. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been fun catching up with you. I got to say, I really am looking forward to another one of Reed Summers' UAP tracking summits, because I learned a ton And it was great to kind of get confirmation that all of this kooky out of the box stuff that I'm putting together was right on track with what other people are doing. It's a great confirmation.
Yeah, exactly. It was great to watch that, to show that, hey, if we stop, if we just quit and retire and go dark, this will continue on through other people. So uh, we're not the only ones holding down the fort. You know, there's a lot of other people doing this. This looks like, with this, a snowball going downhill that's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes. There'll be people who get burnt out from whistleblower campfire stories. And hopefully they go into this avenue. The problem, though, is we need people to get the gear and to use it. You don't have to go out and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Start with one small piece of equipment. Go outside, go somewhere, use it, use your sky, and start a blind sky watches. Do whatever, just start doing it. You know, even if wherever you live, you know, that's where you skywatch. If you live in by the ocean, you skywatch by the ocean. You got a lake, study the shit around the lake. You know, if I lived up in the Arctic, I'd be skywatching there. I would love to try Antarctica. You know, if you have cameras that can survive the freeze, right? Because you're not going to have bugs, not going to have grocery bags, not going to have balloons. So whatever's flying around over Antarctica got to be the shit, you know? It's got to be something from the thing. But yeah, I'm going to do some more of these weekend sky watches and supplemental to the Friday sky watches. There's some people I've been talking with behind the scenes that are going to come on, but they don't live around here. They live on the other side of the planet. So to find kind of a sweet spot where it's not, you know, too late in Europe, but not too early in the US, might be looking at doing something from like 10 to 12 Arizona time, which would be maybe 5 to 7 in the UK, something like that. So that way, because I don't want people to wake up at midnight and come on. You know, it's like me dragging my ass out of bed for midnight. For a podcast, that'd be a lot too. You know, and then we got a spaced out radio, and that crazy man goes on to 1. But Tim, thanks for coming on. This has been educational again. I think we covered some great material. About every time we do one of these, people learn something. You either watch some footage, you get a different perspective. You don't get any bullshit. This is, you know, no bullshit on here. And you can learn how to become a better skywatcher and make some new friends. Have a community. Come out and skywatch with us. I'm Tom King. This is Tim Sr. We are your 4K Skywatch and duo buddies here. We'll see you again next time on 4K Skywatch. And thanks and peace out. Happy Sunday.